Hey everybody, welcome back to Walking and Talking, the show where I walk and talk. Shout out to Luke Cheng for making this episode possible by lending me his battery pack, which was fully charged. This might be the coldest episode so far. Anyhow, I think I'm going to warm up pretty fast by walking here. I've started off so far kind of haltingly. It seems like I didn't start off immediately into the flow of talking. Like I paused and I thought and I was thinking, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to say? Which is always the question that I ask myself. I mean, all the time. If I'm not talking, then there's a good chance I'm thinking, what am I going to say? We're in a more populated area, and sometimes that makes it harder to concentrate. But normally, it's not normally an extreme effort to concentrate. Usually I just get into the flow of talking and it's just like it's just a matter of continuing on something, and sometimes there's some effort being put forth, but in other times it just feels like being in a flow. But just, as you can hear, it's a more distracting environment. That'll be a factor for sure. I don't think we have to worry about it too much though. Just take that into account, factor it in. We don't have to decide that that's a negative thing. A pile of clothes. I feel like I'm walking pretty fast. Maybe that has to do with the coldness and my environment. So far, the quality of what I've been talking about, or the quality of my speaking, in my estimation, doesn't strike me as particularly interesting or compelling at this point. But I don't let that worry me, because always in the course of the 4 hours, without fail so far, something happens that makes it compelling, at least enough for me to keep doing this. It makes it a worthwhile experience. put in a little bit of effort to not feel self-conscious in the IRL realm about walking around with this weird wooden selfie stick with a camera rubber banded to it. I also wonder if the coldness is gonna be kind of a hindrance to thinking. Sometimes when it's really cold, it's a little difficult to think about anything else. I can't say that my mind feels particularly focused in on the task at hand yet. I don't feel in the flow of talking. I don't feel thoughts emerging. It feels a little bit effortful. It feels like it's me here, Ben Bennett, trying to think of things to say. And that doesn't feel very pleasant. And I'm noticing myself doing things to fill time, like saying and I'm remembering myself saying anyhow, and then not having anything to say after I said anyhow. And I'm hearing myself say these things now and judging them kind of as not having much value or interest or insight. There's some people standing with some signs for Falun Dafa, which, if I'm not mistaken, I think that Falun Dafa is the physical exercise component of the Falun Gong, which is kind of a spiritual practice, or some might call it a religion, from China that has a large international presence and has been brutally persecuted by the Chinese government. I'm sure there is much more to that story. But these are externalities. I shouldn't be wasting time on externalities. There's probably plenty of information on that subject available elsewhere on the internet. What's gonna happen here? I'm struggling. I'm struggling a little bit here. And I wonder if this has anything to do with my memory of the last walking and talking episode, in which I didn't struggle for things to say. It was a relatively flat emotional topography, and I felt pretty even and calm most of the way through, with some extra moments of humor and playfulness. And I have a positive memory of it. And that could have been causing me to anticipate a positive experience today. In which case, when I started and entered the present reality of walking and talking, there's a discrepancy between the actual reality of it and what I might have been imagining or expecting based on my most recent memory of doing this. And I feel stimulated by my environment, by seeing all these things. But I don't feel like I'm quite yet successfully channeling my stimulation to you. For instance, there's a helicopter spinning over there. The sun's really bright. Yet it's cold. What's going on here? Why? Why am I struggling so much? I guess that means that there's something that I want that I'm not experiencing. I'm wanting some other kind of mental state than the one I have. I'm wanting some experience of peace or calm or a flow state. I have to yell a little bit in order to make myself audible. That might have something to do with it. That might continue throughout this whole episode based on where we are. I might get to some quieter places where there's not a helicopter literally taking off next to me. Could this be a bad episode? So far, I think it's pretty bad. I mean, what do I mean by that? I mean that any evaluation that I have about this video so far, I think is negative. And that's based upon my memory of my experience so far. But I also wonder if my state is being affected by some of the physical stressors present, like the coldness, the noise, and the bright sun making me squint, the cold wind making it slightly more difficult to move my lips, and the noisiness making me speak loud in order to be heard. And it's possible that those things, have an effect on my body, and that's having an effect on my emotional and mental state. So maybe I'll put in a little effort now to stay aware of those factors, but not react to them. And put in a little effort to calm my mental state, if that's possible. It's so cold. It's so hard to talk. It's not that hard. It's so crowded here. That's okay there. I should really, be just maintaining a perfect balance of mind no matter what's happening, right? That's the ideal. Is it? Is it the ideal? If I'm agitatedly striving for a different state of mind, doesn't that defeat the point? But it's not possible to do otherwise, It's a little bit quieter here. I still feel I feel so incapable of getting into any kind of flow of thought or state of mind, and then I'm also at the same time I'm telling myself that I should just be accepting this current state. It's like there's this paradox of like I gotta stop saying like and so much. Oh my god. What if this episode completely fails? It might completely fail. I might not even complete this episode. It's just so bad. I'm so agitated. And nobody wants to witness that. You know, I don't want to expose people to that. I think, you know, it's not that walking through a crowd itself is inherently agitating. I enjoy it. I enjoy this place, but I guess it's just difficult to maintain a stream of thought that's kind of divorced from the environment when there's so much sensory stimuli coming in. But this place is pretty quiet. I'm not walking now. I had, you know, I think I should be saying things that are intelligent, and that's not really happening. I remember, especially in the last episode, my memory of it is of saying some intelligent things, of being able to put together long, complex sentences. And paragraphs even, and being able to thoroughly investigate a subject or a realm of thought. But now I'm just experiencing so much mental clutter. And I'm just having all these thoughts that I'm recognizing as having had them before and having spoken them before in episodes of Walking and Talking, and so it feels stunted. It feels stagnant, rather. It feels like I'm saying the same thing over and over again. And as if there's no creativity happening yet, whatever that means. I think yeah, I need to stop thinking about the last episode, because that defeats the point. I gotta stop measuring this episode based on the last episode. That's a bad thing to do. This is its own episode, and I gotta discover what the unique quality of this episode is. I was thinking, you've got this video and this sound, and there's this environment, and then there's this person in it with such an agitated mind. And I'm thinking, would this video be better without the person in it? And so my job is to make this mind be an asset to you. What the hell? I'm so discombobulated. Just everything I notice myself thinking strikes me as so unproductive, you know. I'm just, every thought that I have, I'm like, that's not a useful thought. It's kind of self-destructive in a way, like continuing to be self-critical, also just so distracting. But I'm also having this thought that there's still this possibility that everything that's happening right now, oh sorry, the sun is probably right in your face. I'm holding out that there's this possibility that all the difficulty that I'm experiencing now is actually meaningful and useful, in the sense that this is not an uncommon way for people to be the way that I am right now. Just feeling distracted and irritated with ourselves, and like and then, you know, when you're trying to control the way that you're thinking, the way that you're feeling, and telling yourself that you should be calm and focused and zen-like or something, and then you find that you're not, then you become irritated at yourself for being irritated, or irritated at yourself for being distracted. That's kind of, you know, I experienced this. I think maybe less and less these days, but it's still a pretty common thing. And I bet that it's not uncommon for a lot of people. And so that makes me wonder if within the course of these 4 hours, if I change from being in an agitated mental state to being in one that's more peaceful or calm, if that will be illustrative or useful somehow. I'm still noticing myself say a lot, so I'm gonna try really hard not to. But is it a problem to try really hard? If if I try too hard, am I going to see, there I go again. If I try too hard, am I going to sabotage myself? Am I going to cause myself more frustration and agitation? I'm getting sick of that word too. I need a thesaurus. Man, this place is just not, maybe not the right place for doing this, but what am I doing here? What am I doing in this video? I can't think. I don't know if I'm going to complete this one. I don't know if I'm going to get through it. I feel tired of what I'm doing. I feel tired of experiencing myself in this way. And I feel as if almost I could enjoy this environment better if I weren't having to narrate my thoughts to the camera. But you know, everything about my orientation right now seems wrong. I have just this constant, this thought that I should be able to simply appreciate this moment. What the hell is wrong with me? I feel totally insane. Maybe I am totally insane. Will I discover sanity by the end of this? I can't talk straight. This is just like this is just a video of somebody going insane. I felt confident before. I felt as if I had a promising orientation in life. And now I'm just witnessing myself and being kind of appalled. And part of me is thinking maybe that's a necessary and important part of making yourself better, but even hearing myself say that, I feel disgusted with the idea of self-improvement strikes me as kind of misguided. I'm gonna sit down again. So cold. Why am I torturing myself? Here, that's a better view. I don't feel like I can think about your experience. I don't think I can be good to your experience right now. Because I can't even think. I'm trying to be conscious of the quality of your experience of watching this and to give you something valuable, but I don't feel able to I feel like I'm failing. I feel really discouraged. And I keep wondering to myself, is it better to adhere very ardently to this process that I've set forth for myself and to stick through this episode and continue filming for the full 4 hours, even though my mental state is going in this downward spiral and I feel my brain feels foggy and I just don't feel articulate right now. Should I stick it through and see what happens and stay faithful to this process, and maybe via that commitment something will be revealed either to me or to you, or hopefully to both, about the nature of mind that will prove to be liberating. Or is it better to just give up on this episode and do it later under more favorable circumstances, when it's not as cold, it's not as loud, not as crowded? I think those are more of the circumstances that are more favorable to entering a smoother flow of thinking. Because I don't want to give you a terrible experience. So the question is this just a difficult experience that is valuable? A difficult experience that we will learn from and that will enrich our lives somehow? Or is it pointless to suffer this way? I at least think I'm going to continue for a little bit longer because, wow, it's 42 minutes already, 42 minutes in already, and it's been entirely difficult and disconnected, slow, feels like talking feels like slugging through the muck of my body and mind. But possibilities occur to me that are like a glimmer of hope that this might be valuable in some way. But every time that my mind attempts to kind of redeem what's going on, or to recuperate it, or to reframe it in a positive light, pretty soon thereafter, I feel critical of that and think that that's untrue. But nonetheless, these glimmers of a different possibility of being kind of shine through sometimes, and just enough to make me not stop filming right now. Like something might open up if I just commit to continuing. And like I've had in every other episode that I've completed, I've never completed an episode of Walking and Talking and just regretted it and decided it was an entirely bad episode. There have definitely been many segments where I've gone through a lot of difficulty, I know, and there's been a few times where I decided to stop filming and just chill out and try it again another day, because I was a little too my mind was going into a negative spiral, and I just decided to stop. But there's also been plenty of other times where I was also in a negative spot. I'm just watching a bum like throw trash into the water. It's great. Yeah, just throw the fucking trash into the water. Who gives a fuck? There, I'll show you. There's that guy over there, right in front of the Statue of Liberty. But for a second I thought he wasn't wearing pants, like he was taking a shit or something. But I don't know what he's doing. He's providing me a little bit of comic relief from my mind, is what he's doing. So I can thank him for that. He has his pants rolled. He has his pant legs rolled up to his knees, which I find strange. Now he's looking at me. Now he's looking at me. There's been plenty of times when I've experienced a lot of negativity and doubt during one of these episodes, and felt very strongly that it was going to be a terrible episode, but I stuck with it, and my perception completely turned around, and even the difficult experience that I had was recontextualized into being meaningful. And I talk about this over and over again. I talked about this in the last episode, even though that's not what happened in the last episode. But still so far, I can't really confidently, to the extent at all that I evaluate what's going on now, I think it's pretty negative. It doesn't feel good. Maybe it's time to leave this location. Do you think it's possible that every homeless person that you see talking to themselves is having an experience not dissimilar to this one? Oh man, I'm gonna like Am I gonna get a copy strike for this music coming on? That's the type of shit that happens, right? One of you is gonna do it. one of you is going to be like, ah, some music came on in the background. Copy strike this guy. Thanks a lot, buddy. Whoever did that to this episode. I know who that artist is. I'm smart. I'm cultured. But I'm not gonna tell you, because then it'll make it easier for you to copy strike me. Look at those birds. Those birds aren't copyrighted. They're not my original content. They're birds. I didn't create the birds. Those are public domain birds. So you might be able to detect some faint glimmer of comic relief here and there, but you know, a dark, cynical type of humor, but humor nonetheless. So the possibility of showing a slightly light side of a dark perspective. I really should have taken a pee before I came out here. Trying to find a place to pee in this city is like trying to find water in the desert. It's the reverse problem. I'm discovering myself think and talk in a way that it just feels repetitive of previous episodes. It feels derivative of myself. Here's, a thing to walk up on, but I'm not gonna do that. It's just, I'm not gonna do what that thing wants me to do. Man, I wonder if I'll. I really should have peed before I left. This has to be the worst episode so far. I'm cold, I have to pee. Do I just bear through it? I can't put sentences together. I can't find the right vocabulary. Do I just stick through it and see what happens? A jogging woman apologized, but I don't think she actually did anything that was inconsiderate. Dead end. I feel like an idiot today. The trick is to stop compounding your can I please think of any word besides agitation? Jesus fucking Christ. Alright. Now I'm just angry and cursing. I think it's maybe time to give up on this episode. It might be time to give up. Seriously, very seriously considering pulling the trigger, pulling the plug on this episode. And it's partially that I'm revealing a side of myself that I feel embarrassed of. I feel really embarrassed of the way that I am right now. Because I imagined myself to be such an even-keeled person, and I imagined myself to be able to keep a calm demeanor in any sort of situation. But here I am, just walking around, but being frustrated and pissed off and all in a tizzy and unable to think very clearly or productively. Maybe I did this episode too soon after shooting the last episode. It shouldn't be. Maybe I need to have some more life in between the episodes in order for this to feel like a fresh experience. But I don't think that shouldn't be the case. That shouldn't be the case. This can't be. I know this has to be horrible torture to watch. This is so bad. I have to pee so bad. to stop. Damn it. But if I stop, I'll be such a failure. Is there any possibility that this episode is at all salvageable? It's gonna continue being cold. I'll keep going for now. And maybe I can just take some solace in the idea that I don't have to post this episode, you know? If it's terrible, if indeed the entire episode is terrible like this, then I can choose not to post it. But I have to keep my orientation focused more on you. I don't want this. My problem is I'm being too focused on my own mind. I'm focusing on myself too much. I'm too caught up in my own mind. I thought I had a positive orientation in life and that this was a positive practice or something, but I think I have to let go of that idea. As evidenced here. Man, what the fuck? I'm not really enjoying the presence of other people right now. I mean the IRL people. I think man, it's weird. It's like it's almost like I prefer this imaginary company of you, the viewer, to the people that are around me in real life right now. That's weird. I'm just talking for hours and just revealing my experience and revealing my thought process, and even stuff like this, experiences like this that I feel really embarrassed of, but I'm revealing them anyways. Maybe I'll go out on this pier thingy, and maybe people will not come out here because they'll see me and think I'm a bum and avoid me. And, you know, I'm not even being a very nice person by using the word bum either. Damn, I have to pee. Can I? Man. There's a police boat right over there. I really want to just pee. It's pretty windy out here. It's cold. wait till spring. This is quality entertainment right here. This is must see. Like Shenyun, it's a must see. I'm just talking for hours, revealing all this crap to you. But I still appreciate that you are watching this. Because any sort of value that might be here has to be so obscure and hidden and just not at all apparent on the surface. And that's like, that indicates to me that you must have a pretty deep understanding about the nature of life and experience and the nature of how thoughts and emotions change. And you must have some kind of understanding of non-duality in order to continue watching something that in any kind of immediate sense is so unrewarding as this. I mean, I'm the one doing this, and I can just barely hold in my mind the reason for doing this, the motivation to continue going. It's only, at this point, it's only barely in here. It's, you know, somewhere in the back of my mind is this little indicator that reminds me that is a slightly higher perspective above the kind of crappy experience that I'm having, and is telling me, keep going, stick with this crappy experience, because it might not be what it seems like on the surface. There might be something more to it, a deeper way to interpret it, a deeper way of experiencing it and of making sense of it. There's just and so there's that little thing in me keeping me going. And I think that if you are willing to watch this and continue watching it, I think there must be some sort of understanding along those lines in you as well. And that lets me relate to you. And it makes me feel like I'm not alone in this type of perspective, and also just in this experience. Like, I'm not completely alone in the experience that I'm having right now, just by the fact that there are at least a few people that will watch this, or at least watch a good chunk of it. And I know that there are people that watch or listen to entire episodes and seem to get a great deal out of it. That's something that helps me feel motivated to continue, and it helps me in this moment having that knowledge that there are some people in the world that could relate to the experience that I'm having and can understand the motivation for doing it, and who wouldn't consider me entirely crazy. Man, if only there were a place to pee. Is there, what is preventing people from just putting a public restroom somewhere? There's some weird structure over here. Could it possibly contain a bathroom? Kind of doubt it. I'm not trying to look like a creep filming people. There's not going to be a bathroom in here. Just some aesthetic experience. I'm being offered an aesthetic experience now. But it's not the experience that I really need. The experience, it's taking me up there. The experience that I really need is the experience of releasing my bladder. Is that copyrighted? The public art? Do I have to make fun of it? Do I have to, do I have to make fun of that material in order to have it fall under a fair use clause? So that it falls under the parody usage? I think that's how it works. If there's any copyrighted material or trademarked material whatsoever in this video, I have to make it fall under a fair use clause, which would include parody. So if I just make fun of everything, then it's okay. But what if I don't want to make fun of it? It's fine. Maybe I can just comment? Do I have to comment on it? I don't have anything to say about it. It's just there. It is what it is. That's my comment. That's my comment on any copyrighted or trademarked material that might appear in this film. Just, you can assume that goes for saying that I am making commentary on anything that appears in this film, and my comment is, it is what it is. There's a building that would look like it might have a bathroom. I'm sure it's locked up. Wasn't I talking about something interesting? Oh yeah. I was talking about how I'm kind of bolstered by the knowledge that I'm sharing this experience with you. There's not gonna be a bathroom anywhere. They just don't do that they don't do that type of shit here. Because if there were a bathroom, homeless people would use it. You can't have that. You can't be having homeless people having a place to defecate, you know? Have them just do it on the sidewalk. You can't be having the general public having a place to pee without buying a coffee. And it's becoming increasingly hard to think about anything other than how much I have to pee. I still might pull the plug on this episode. Damn, this sucks. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can release this episode. It's so fucking bad. And it's like fucking an hour and 15 minutes of just like me being angry. With occasionally some perspective on my anger. There's some weird looking birds. Copyrighted, probably. But it's fair use because I said that they were weird looking. possible for me to just abandon any standards I might have held in my mind regarding the quality of these videos. To just completely accept everything about this video. Just allow any kind of mood, any kind of mind state, any kind of stupid and short-sighted utterances and just accept it all and post it. This is kind of intense. Too much time has gone by. Too much time has gone by in a negative state, and I still don't feel any improvement. But still, there's that question of what if actually yeah, I gotta be like these guys. Yeah, I need to be like these guys. Let's go. Keep walking and talking. I need a drill sergeant on me. You better keep talking. Don't stop talking. Pick up that rate of speech. Don't stop walking. That's what I need here. I need some discipline. Stop being negative. Oh, your face is cold? Oh, it's hard to talk because your face is cold? Tough shit. When you're in the battlefield, it's not always gonna be 70 degrees. You're not always gonna have a place to pee. Kid did a 360 on a Razor scooter. Look, restrooms. Restrooms this way. It says, "I'm skeptical. I'm not getting my hopes up." Is that it? Where's the restrooms? Pointed this way. I'm skeptical. What's this? This looks like a restroom. It's open. Hold on. I'm not gonna film the restroom. Sorry. turning this off. Well, that's a relief. Man, that feels much better. Also, it was heated in that bathroom, so I got to warm up for a few seconds. I got to wash my hands in warm water and dry them off with one of those air dryers with a warm air, even though they say that those things just concentrate the germs on your hands now. And then, to be honest, I'll be honest with you, after I got out of the bathroom, I took a good 3 or 4 minutes just questioning whether I was going to start filming again or whether I was just going to pull the plug on this episode and head back. And just because it's been a lot of time has elapsed so far, and it's all been of a quality that I have not been able to accept. But as I thought about that, and I thought about how much aversion I felt to what I had recorded and experienced so far, how terrible I thought that this episode has been so far. When I thought about that, I felt it in a way even more interesting to continue as a kind of experiment, just to see what happens. Accepting the possibility that maybe the whole episode's terrible, but also holding out to this possibility that maybe maybe there's something worth investigating about this experience that I'm having, that I am judging so negatively. That it's almost unique in its negativeness. And it's not for sure that there's particular external circumstances that are causing this, you know. There's the cold here, but maybe I can get used to that. And sure, there's a lot of people around, but that doesn't necessarily have to put me in a distracted mindset. And I don't necessarily have to feel agitated by the sounds around. And so I kind of thought to myself, maybe this is kind of a unique experience to just keep going here in the face of my very serious doubts. And I just have a feeling that something's going to change. And even if it doesn't, I don't think anything horrible is going to happen. I don't think I'm going to totally lose my mind or go crazy or anything as a result of doing this. Surely other people have done more difficult things, and I think I have too. It might just force me to have to open myself up to accepting a wider range of experience and to stop rejecting it somehow. And I think I had in my mind a certain idea about how these episodes should go. I thought I should be speaking in a more intelligent, more charismatic, more lighthearted, more clear-minded, mainly, way. And thinking about the viewer and thinking that nobody wants to. I was thinking that this is kind of the antithesis of any form of entertainment, you know, of anything that would be pleasurable to watch. Because I'm not in a jazzed up, infectious mood that's going to cause a positive mood via your mirror neurons. I'm not in a mood that is really desirable at all, I don't think. And no one really likes to watch people suffer. Well, I don't think. Maybe a few psychopaths do. But there's not even the kind of struggle here that is sexy to watch. I'm not some survivor guy out on the tundra building a shelter out of sticks or something like that. Or, you know, this isn't the type of struggle that's sexy for TV. This isn't some Survivor Man shit. This is just a dude walking around being kind of annoyed with himself for a long time. Just a very mundane experience, and so far not really offering any useful perspective on that mundane experience. More just productive sort of dealing with that experience. I am judging every aspect of my own behavior now as being totally unredeemable. And therefore for this media to be totally unredeemable. And that's almost, that in itself is rare, and that's a unique thing. It's like saying, like, this is so bad that it's unique. And wondering what happens when you continue to follow through on doing something that seems terrible in every way. Something that seems like a complete waste of time. What will happen? But obviously, what I just said is another method of redeeming, trying to redeem what's happening. I wonder if this will work. Look at this. Let's see. We'll look over there. Will this work for you? I don't know if this is gonna work. Are we still filming? Not sure what I'm pointing you at. What are we seeing here? A fire escape. I hope that worked. I can't really see it. I can't see the view screen. So I'm trying to think, maybe this is actually really good. Maybe there's actually something good about this. But it just seems really bad. A bird just went underwater. Let's see if it comes back up. It just dove underwater. I see it nowhere. It's still holding its breath. There it goes. There it goes. Underwater. Oh, no, the first one just came up over there. And then another one, there's two of them. One of them's underwater now. It's still holding its breath. There it goes. Oh, there goes the. I'm gonna hold my breath and see if I can do it for as long. That wasn't so long. Could have kept going. It's like this isn't the kind of, this isn't the type of drama that seems redeemable to me. You know what I mean? It's almost as if it's not bad enough. It's not bad enough to be interesting. It's not struggle enough to be absorbing. But maybe I'm underestimating us. Maybe, you know, of course this is a lot different than a Hollywood movie in which the protagonist starts off already having an impeccable moral compass, and the world smacks them with grave injustices, yet they continue to work through those injustices and difficult circumstances with perfect equanimity and perfect moral direction the entire time, despite the outside world imposing terrible things upon their good soul. And they have to, you know, if it's a male character, then they have to, you know, be really tough and you know, fight the bad guys and withstand the corruption. They have to say no to going over to the dark side. They have to stay on the moral side, no matter how difficult that seems. And they have to endure lots of pain and hardship, but you know, and big dramatic things happen. Explosions, car chases, bullets, shady deals. This isn't really like that. This is just you're seeing a very imperfect protagonist, if indeed I can be considered a protagonist. Just kind of being annoyed with himself in pretty normal conditions, you know. This isn't even that difficult of conditions. It's just kind of cold, and there's literally thousands of other people outside now enjoying the day and running and stuff. Or just taking a walk or walking their dog. And I'm in the midst of one of the most affluent cities there's absolutely no scarcity of resources. There's no actual danger to me. All I'm doing in here is battling with the unproductive and self-destructive elements of my own mind. And even as I say that, it might be an over-dramatization. I might be being over-dramatic. But where's the poetry? Where's the elegance? Where's the narrative arc? When's the meaning gonna start revealing itself? That's what I want to know. Where is it? Is it possible that it's just absent? That it will remain unknown for the entirety of the 4 hours? Or remain absent? Could this 4 hours be a true waste of time? I don't know. I don't know if that's there's another dog with tall ears. I guess it seems unlikely that the 4 hours will be entirely devoid of any sort of redemptive quality. Because I'm well aware that even just the experience of doing something very difficult, once it ends, you feel pretty good, you know? Usually, if it's something that you impose on yourself. If you're doing something and you're like, this is hard, this sucks, this is painful, this is annoying, this is boring, but you manage to make yourself get through with it, there's always some kind of turning around point. Even when it's, at least, if nothing else, when it's over, then you get to go, you have freedom, and then you get to go gratify whatever desire that you have. And so, even if this episode turns out to be entirely crap, I'll at least be done with it and then go do something fun. And I imagine that fun thing, whatever it is that I do, would be that much more fun having done something
It's interesting.
very onerous for 4 hours.
And she's like with people.
But, let's, why don't I stop shit talking this episode, Stop referring to it as onerous. Why don't I start really appreciating how unique it is? It's so unlike the last episode. Hear those sounds? Bubbling up. Bubbling up from the East River. It seems like a sign that like a giant space alien is about to emerge from the East River and destroy the city. Wait, it's not the East River. It's the Hudson River.
She's in there.
Maybe my process is not restrictive enough, or maybe I'm not disciplined enough, maybe I need to be putting forth a much greater mental effort onto talking and remaining really focused, narrowed down on my experience and the thought in order to really dig in there. Like not just allowing myself to go on in an agitated state and just waiting for my state to change, my mental state to change, hoping it's going to happen. Maybe I really need to just put more effort into focusing in. Continue talking, don't stop talking, don't do these pauses, don't let go of of whatever apathy that I might have, or whatever discouragement I might have, or what's the word? I'm just gonna try harder. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try harder to talk more, to talk faster, to not just let these feelings of discouragement wash over me and affect me. Take a more proactive approach and behave as if I have agency over myself. This might be part of the problem. Interestingly, there's many moments during walking and talking in which my sense of self and agency begins to kind of dissolve in a very pleasant way, in which I feel more in the flow, but I feel the words moving out of me, and I observe the thoughts forming and coming out of me without such a sense of myself making them. And that feels like the state that I want to be in. But as if I'm not really controlling it so much. I'm just kind of witnessing it. But maybe that's a double-edged sword in some ways, because in so much of this episode, I think I've kind of been behaving as if I don't really have control over my mind state, you know? Behaving as if I have no power to change how I'm feeling, and just waiting for it to turn around. And now I'm expending the effort. Now I'm deciding to expend the effort to just change my attitude, and it seems like it's working. But it's really weird. It's really paradoxical in that now here we are, almost 2 hours in, and I'm starting to put in effort into controlling my state, and just stop being so whiny, stop being so lazy, and just work harder, you know? Sometimes you just have to work harder at it. And it's almost as if I was sitting there waiting for something to happen. I was waiting for something to happen. I was waiting for my mood to magically change. But what I was actually waiting for was this. What I was waiting for was to decide to stop waiting. And that's odd. That's very odd. And because now, having made this decision, I'm not going to reproach myself for what I did in the past. I'm not going to keep beating myself up for doing this waiting, because I now realize that is unproductive and unuseful, and also realizing there's some kind of reason for it, or that I'm deciding now to value this moment. I'm making a decision to value this moment, an active one. And valuing this moment entails an acceptance of what's happened in the past, and accepting that what happened in the past is just a necessary precursor to what's happening now, that they're inextricably linked. I can't change the past, but I can change my reaction to the present. I can change my orientation to the present, and my attitude now, with an active decision. And it's as if the past is, however shitty my memory of the past is, it's inextricable. It's an integral part of the present, in a way. This moment now of taking agency can't exist apart from the past. You know what I'm saying? the past is here embedded in it. So I spent some time waiting and wallowing in self-pity. But I'm accepting that because for whatever circumstances, and by circumstances I mean the state of my own mind as well, that's just exactly what needed to happen to lead up to the present moment. Whatever undesirable things have happened in the past, whatever shitty things have happened in the past, I can't change. But I can accept that they are just necessarily in my past. And that right now, in the present, they had a part in creating the present. And what's unique about the present is that's where our agency exists. The present is the only thing where we have power to choose what we're gonna do and what kind of future we're gonna create for ourselves. So I feel kind of I'm just suddenly now feeling emboldened. And all this doubt is evaporating now. I have no doubts now that I'm going to finish this video, unless something out of my control prevents that, like the battery runs out or something like that. So this just feels pretty amazing now, that in one sense, all of a sudden, there's been a turning point in this episode. But on the same token, it's not a turning point. It's all continuous. Nothing external, no external circumstances really changed. Just my attitude changed when I was just, I just shifted from an attitude of observing myself suffering to an attitude of I'm going to decide now not to suffer. And that strikes me as kind of a balance between agency and acceptance. Like, of course you can't control everything. There's actually very little that you can control, and so you have to accept what you can't control, but then you need to realize what you can control and do something with it. And whatever you are able to control, you make it better. And that's all you really can do. And if you're doing that as much as you can, then you're not suffering. You might experience pain, but you're not suffering. If you're not suffering, if you're taking agency over the things that you're able to take agency over and to make them better. And just all of a sudden I feel so much better. I mean, not a giddy type of happiness now. I don't feel giddy. But I feel connected. I feel connected with my past and accepting of it. And I feel in control of my future. And by that I don't mean that I think that I'm able to control everything that's going to happen to me in the world, but I feel in control of how I'll respond to it now. And I feel confidence. That I will be able to respond to life in an upright fashion that can continue to make life better for me and for other people. Or at least I feel confident that I'm going to try as hard as I can to do that, which is the best that I can do. And just increasingly now, almost overwhelmingly, I'm looking back at the beginning of this video and remembering all the things that I said about how difficult it was and how I was so strongly considering ending the episode. And I'm feeling so grateful that I continue to keep going. because now all that stuff in the past, now I am actually seeing its meaning and its significance. It's so weird. It's so weird. It's like reality is so inconsistent in that way. And that I remember perfectly vividly the total meaningless and emptiness of just an hour ago. And now just retrospectively, that experience being imbued with a very strong meaning. It's just so stark, and it's a stark contrast, but it's also just plainly, just so obviously reality. It's so plain for me to see both how I can very plainly remember how meaningless and empty and unpleasant that experience was, and but it's also so plainly obvious how necessary it was, and how completely connected it was to the present experience. The present experience where I'm just feeling no worry whatsoever. And I know I've had this feeling before too. I've had this feeling of feeling no worry whatsoever. And I know that this is going to change and go away. And that once again in the future, I'm going to feel empty and meaningless and suffering again, and I'll feel a little bit more, I'll feel disconnected from this type of experience that I'm having. I know it's just going to happen again. But I will also have the memory of this type of experience. This experience that I'm having now, this like total turnaround, this complete reorientation of my perspective. I'm going to remember this, and that's going to play into how I respond to those types of negative feelings in the future. And this has happened in the past, and if not for the past experiences of this sort, it's unlikely that I would have had the determination to continue with this video. And so as it goes, it kind of reinforces itself. This determination kind of reinforces itself every time that it's tested and then confirmed, like, and it really was confessed. It really was tested, because I've experienced difficulty in past episodes, but this episode, especially the first hour 15 minutes, I was seriously considering stopping the episode. I was like, yeah, I've experienced difficulty, but this is really bad, you know? That's what my experience was like. Like, this is worse than all that. This is real difficulty. All that other stuff in the past, you know? I was interpreting that difficulty as being way worse. I mean, and it's just that it's happening. It's just that when it's happening in the present, it's more real than what you have in your memory, you know? You're like, I can deal with that, I can deal with that. When you're not experiencing it, then you're experiencing a difficulty, and it's hard sometimes to connect with that part of yourself that that is able to accept it, you know? Because it's always new, it's always fresh. I think it's about time to turn around here. It's always, you know, anything you're experiencing in the present, it's always a unique and new experience, whether it's good or bad or neutral. And of course you have a mind that's formed by your past experiences, and the way that you respond and react to things is formed in large part by your past experiences. And so, you know, when I was, you know, facing this decision of, do I continue this episode or not, I'm referencing my memories of having similar experiences in the past. And on one hand, the just unique and fresh intensity of the displeasure and discomfort that I was experiencing pulled me towards the direction of saying, screw it, let's give up on this episode and try again in more favorable circumstances. It's just too bad, it's unredeemable. Versus my memory of having a past experience that felt the same, where I was, you know, considering giving up, but I continued anyways, and I remembered that it turned around in a way, and the difficulty became recontextualized as something very meaningful and important to just face. And in this instant, my memory of the past experience won over, and I sided with perseverance. And I could say that I could put it in a way that I'm reaping the benefits of that now, but as past experience proves, I don't want to become overly confident, and you know, it doesn't make sense to reframe everything as positive now, you know, because I'm afraid that would create just too much of a dichotomy and perhaps set me up for future experiences of disappointment or disenchantment, you know? Like in the same sense that the same sense that I'm retroactively imbuing my past negative experiences with meaning and importance, I think I also need to respect how real that experience of discomfort was. And, you know, not romanticize it, and not completely put it into some positive light. Because I don't actually want to experience that again. You know? It's just like that. That perhaps today I'm having a steeper emotional topography, you know, higher peaks and valleys today. And I tend to believe that the higher your peaks, the deeper your valleys, and vice versa. And so if I don't want to have those deep valleys, then it would behoove me to not just allow myself to float up on a high emotional peak. And just completely forget about the valley that is inextricably linked to that peak. I would actually prefer to have a flatter emotional topography. I'd prefer to have an emotional topography more like Kansas than like West Virginia. Just because I might feel some sort of elation following a period of difficulty, I don't want to just let that difficulty just, you know, slip out of my mind, or to place an overly positive interpretation over it. I don't want to allow myself to slip ignorantly into some kind of euphoria. Because those type of states always turn around. They always reverse themselves. And so I kind of prefer a middle ground state, because it's so much more stable. And I think there's some greater advantages to that stability. You don't feel so swept away, and you feel you're able a little bit more to predict a little bit better how you're gonna be in the future, and the people around you are gonna be able to count on you a little bit more. Because they're not gonna be having to guess whether on any given day or at any given moment you're going to be positive and elated or depressed and terrible to be around. And it means you don't get swept away with either just fleeting negative or fleeting positive reactions to events, to circumstances. And so for me, it's just important to have a perspective over my past experiences that acknowledges both the peaks and the valleys and just keeps them in view. So that I don't have a perception of anything that's overly skewed to the negative or the positive. I don't want to interpret, I don't want to have this idea in my mind that walking and talking is this just purely joyous experience. And then by doing it, I can just remain euphoric all the time. Because it's not really possible to maintain a state of euphoria permanently. I don't think. And I think anybody that is pretending to is full of shit. Your neurotransmitters don't work that way. They normalize to things. They get fatigued. And there's reasons for pain and suffering in life. I mean, there's at least reasons for pain. Suffering, that's another question. But I don't want to have some expectation that walking and talking is always a great experience, because that expectation will be disappointed sometime, and it will lead to me experiencing the opposite. I'll feel extra negative when it doesn't meet up to my expectation. like, you know, a little while ago when I was talking about, when I was describing how I was experiencing this sudden turning point in the video where I took control of my emotional state and made an active decision to improve it. To assume my agency. And all of a sudden I started my orientation towards the world became so much more positive. Well, I can't just rest on that, you know. There's still much more time here. There's still a lot more time in this video to go, and I don't want to start. I don't want to adopt a lazy mental attitude after feeling some positive feelings, you know? It's not like I figured it out and I'm good now and I can just cruise now. I can just coast on that realization. No, I have to remain active and continue to put forth effort to improve my mental state and improve the quality of my talking and my thinking, and to continue to actively consider your experience as a viewer and to remember to take care of it always. Just, you know, not because that's already far in the past. That turning point that I was talking about, that's already part of the past. And I'm just right now I'm just feeling like I'm remembering, oh yeah, this is the present now. And you need to deal with the present and respond actively to the present and not just keep dwelling on something that seemed like a positive discovery in the past, you know, because that gets problematic too. It gets lazy and you can get disconnected from the present. You know, even if you did have some really profound revelation, it was real, it was true, and it was revelatory, but you have to let it go immediately, or else you're hanging on to something that's no longer relevant. You have to respond to every single moment, and you just have to keep reminding yourself, what's happening now? How do I respond to what's going on now? And it's not necessarily helpful to be putting it through any kind of lens, whether it's negative or positive. It's just what it is. There's tennis courts here. I'm reminding myself to tell my friend who wants to play tennis that there are tennis courts here. And let me just see if these are like free. First come, first serve. Limited to 1 hour when other people are waiting. All right. Sorry there. Sorry, I'm just getting distracted with an externality. It's still cold, but I just haven't been thinking about how it's cold. It hasn't been bothering me until I just thought about it now. I'm picking up the pace. I'm just kind of... I'm not... I'm not like on a high plane or anything right now. I'm not euphoric. I'm not even sure if I would describe my current state as a flow state, but to some extent I haven't been experiencing the effortfulness of talking. I haven't been acutely aware of difficulty in coming up with things to say now, like I was a while ago. It does actually seem like I've maybe been downhill, and then it kind of struck me again to stop coasting and to stop relying on that downhill momentum and to stay actively engaged with what's going on right now, to not get overly confident, to not fall into some delusion that this is going to be rosy from here on out, but to just continue responding to reality, just seeing how it is. And I guess that means responding to my own experience, just how it is. Without putting any abstract kind of interpretation on it. And just stay on the level. You know what I mean? Not head in the clouds, but just, being okay with reality the way that it is. sounds to me like a cliched thing to say, and it also seems to conflict with one of the most important aspects of this episode, which was not to passively accept your own suffering, but to really know your own agency and use it and just make yourself stop suffering. I don't know. Maybe that's not always possible. But maybe it is. Like we were talking about this, I was talking about this earlier, when in the beginning part of this video my attitude was more of somewhat of just accepting my own annoyance and displeasure. For quite a while I did that, until I decided to just take a more active approach. But at the same time, at the same time I still have to accept that first hour and 15 minutes or whatever it was, that can't have been any other way, you know, that was a necessary product of my own mind in the state that it was. And I could say, if I had realized earlier, or if I had come to this realization to just decide earlier, then that would have been great. But just the way that things were, that's just innately like how they had to be at that time. And like it's the past and it's unchangeable is all I'm really saying. And of course I think if I had known at that time how to just instantly end my suffering, you know, I would have done it, of course. My mind was struggling to figure it out. It was actually trying the whole time. It was trying to figure out how to get into a better experience the entire time. And it just took that time. And that's okay. It's like when the time comes that you do actually find a real happiness, it doesn't matter how long it took you to get there, you know, because that time in the past, you become at peace with it. So it might take you a very long time sometimes, but you can have a kind of faith that your state is always going to change. And no matter how difficult and how endless the suffering seems, it is going to end someday. and the way of it ending is unknown. It could be that the manner of it ending might actually be involve you finally discovering the way in which to take agency to actively change your way of relating to the world. You know, it could be you finally discovering how to assume your own agency. And it might take a really long time, but just have faith that it will happen eventually. And when it finally happens, the time that it took for it to happen isn't going to be a problem anymore, because it's going to be a part of the past that you're at peace with. I'm hearing myself speak, and I'm thinking about the quality of the stuff that I'm saying, and if I think about it in comparison to other types of media that are prevalent, that are popular, I think of this type of video as lacking all the qualities that make other successful videos successful. You know what I mean? You know, it's like ridiculously long. It's like really devoid of charisma, of stimulation, of attention grabbing stuff. It's full of aspects of myself that I don't think of as strengths, really. You know, spending a lot of time stuttering and filling time with uhs and likes and self-doubt and complaining about having to pee and so on and so on, and you know, just walking through a pretty ordinary environment, probably not looking particularly attractive. I'm sure. So like in all these, it seems to be, if I'm thinking about it that way, it seems to lack anything that would seem desirable in a piece of media to engage with. But there's kind of a problem also with comparing yourself to the qualities that make other people successful. I don't know. Maybe there's a benefit in that. Maybe there's a reason to do that. Maybe it's helpful in the long run. But also, I'm starting to acknowledge a completely different sort of value in this video, I think. Just in the fact that like I can't imagine any other YouTuber. I don't know. If I'm wrong, please tell me about it. I just can't imagine anybody else posting something like this to spend an hour and 20 minutes just being painfully aware of their painful awareness. Now I'm kind of boasting or something. Now I'm boasting a little bit, or I'm tooting my own horn, you could say. But but I'm saying it as kind of to encourage you to just examine the aspects of yourself that you don't really like, but examine them without shying away from them, and continuing to accept those things about yourself as much as you're able to. I guess until you, I don't know, I'm lost here. I'm lost here because there's, like I was saying, there's this paradox between accepting things that you don't like and taking agency to change them for the better. And, you know, I watch other YouTubers, and I see all these qualities that they have that contribute to their success, and I notice how I might be lacking in some of those qualities, and then I think about that, but then and that's not pleasant to think about, you know, it's painful. But then when I go out and actually just make a YouTube video, when I do this, when I make this walking and talking video, that ceases to be a problem when I'm making it. And it's not the case that I start mimicking and adopting those qualities that I saw in someone else. That's not what happens. But when I do this for such a long time, I'm eventually able to stop interpreting this as lacking something that somebody else has, but to interpret it as having a uniqueness that nothing else has. And that can apply to your life. I think it's good to notice and admire positive traits of other people. But for me, trying to put forth an effort to mimic those qualities doesn't seem to be as fruitful as actually just observing the qualities that I have in myself already, and just kind of in some ways making space for those positive ones to grow. And not, you know, when I have a judge. Oh yeah, artisanal selfie stick.
That's dope.
I gotta show you the selfie stick if you haven't seen it already. It's just like a piece of wood that I found, and I have the camera rubber banded to it. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, like when I have these really judgmental thoughts of myself, self-critical thoughts, which has to do with looking at myself through the imagined eyes of others. While I will acknowledge that there is probably a certain social function to that kind of thinking, that, you know, it's of course good to have an understanding of how your behavior affects other people around you, and to have an awareness of how you fit in or don't fit in, or contribute or don't contribute to society. Usually for me, having these self-critical thoughts, I don't want to give them too much food, you know? I don't want to give too much energy to these self-critical thoughts, because, you know, having those thoughts themselves, when you're having them, it means you're not really actively doing you're not actively fulfilling your potential in this world. But interestingly for me, when I'm doing this walking and talking thing, it's almost like both things are happening simultaneously. I'm sometimes, like for instance in earlier parts of this video, having tons of self-critical thoughts, and just voicing them, but at the same time I've placed myself within this framework of producing a piece of media that I view as being a mode of me feeling actualized in the world and actualizing a unique potential that I have, and making some kind of contribution, if you can call it that. It's like a framework wherein that otherwise unproductive behavior can become part of something could be informative and useful. contribute to some insight about the nature of mind. Just to, like, if you're watching this video, if you've watched this whole video, you have to have noticed the change that's happened. I'm walking back now, and I'm retracing my path and remembering what I felt like when I was here a couple hours ago, and it's completely different. But the framework is helpful. The framework is kind of important, it seems. Without this if I didn't have this 4-hour framework and repeating the experience, repeating the 4-hour, completing this process of talking and walking for 4 hours, if I had that difficult experience that I had earlier, I wouldn't have this goal in mind of continuing through. I wouldn't have this impetus to stick with that discomfort. And it's by sticking with that discomfort that I'm able to gain any kind of insight into it, and a kind of insight that will probably affect how I'm able to respond to things like that in the future. I remember I walked past this restaurant earlier, and I was looking at the people inside, and just feeling annoyed by their presence. Just feeling a kind of aversion to those people, and that was really just, my emotional state, like, would basically almost feel aversion to anything at that point. And now I'm just fine. It's not that I'm not feeling an ecstatic love for all those people in there exactly, but they're fine. They're who they are. They're other people just like me. And yeah, I'm not tempted to make any kind of judgment about the people around me now. Because, I just know this, I know the experience of being myself, and the experience of being unhappy and being dissatisfied, the experience of being dissatisfied with experiencing subsequently gaining a perspective that allowed me to just accept that that was a necessary process to go through. And it's like, how could I ever just hate another person, you know? And you know, if I'm in a agitated or just generally displeased state, it's like you could hate somebody else for anything, you know? You could hate them for being more happy than you. You could hate them for being angry. You could hate them for having more than you. You could hate them for having less than you. You could hate them for being too similar to you. Just anything. Like any reason you could find. But when I'm not suffering just at the mere experience of being who I am, there's just no reason. It's like hating another person is just like a foreign idea, a foreign concept. But, you know, at the same time, I'm familiar with it. Have a concept of what it feels like. But just recognizing that it's not really the other person that is making me unhappy. But you know, then I have to realize that having that perspective is also is also kind of dependent on this state. There's this Coast Guard staring at me with a machine gun. At least they're not pointing the gun. I think I probably sound like a Buddhist right now. Oh, I dropped my lip balm. All right, I should pick up the pace a little. Let me see what time it is. Still got a little ways to go. Man, this feels long. This episode feels really long. I feel like I should be coming to the end soon, but there's still, I don't know exactly, but there's still like there's like 30 to 45 minutes left to go or something like that. Probably 45. This is like this is one of the more difficult episodes. It's very I feel like there's not been a lot of fun in this episode. It's mostly been sobering. But I think there's a place for that. I'm imagining this episode perhaps being useful for somebody that is in a dark state. Some of the other ones are more lighthearted, and some of them have a little more humor, and some of them actually seem to contemplate. Some of the other episodes seem to contemplate mind in a way that is not so focused on suffering, and it seems a little more expansive. This one seems to be all about the nature of suffering. And in general, I don't want to dwell on that too much, because if you dwell on it, it seems like if you can only interpret reality through the lens of suffering, it almost seems like maybe that's all you're going to experience, or something like that. There's plenty of there's time to not. There should be a time to not think about suffering. But at the same time, there's also a time to think about it and to address it. So this could be an episode that could be useful for somebody who's suffering. And I wonder even if the agitated mind state that I was in at the beginning of the episode could be relatable to somebody in a similar mind state, if they could actually watch it and relate to it because they're feeling similar, or are familiar with that state. And I think that this is an episode where some perspective is gained on that. Gonna have to pee again before too long. It's not as bad as before, though. I guess I would just like to be able to well, there's some weird pedals on the ground. They're parts of pine cones. I guess if anything, I hope that this can demonstrate something about how our perspectives change. But if there are people out there that when you're having a negative experience and you can't seem to gain any perspective beyond it or above it, and it might seem hopeless, like it's never going to change, then I would hope that this video could provide some evidence to the contrary. Because I think it's like demonstrating it in a real life situation. It's observing itself while it happens. And it's not like in this video I ever felt totally hopeless, you know. The spark of hope was in there the whole time. A certain knowledge that my bad mood would turn around. And I think that some spark of awareness like that does actually exist in everybody. I think everybody has that capacity. There is some part of you, there is some awareness that you have that knows that things are gonna change. And so I just want to strengthen that when things seem bad and hopeless. It looks like they put these things here as skate blockers, but it looks like they would make it actually more fun to skate. Except for the possibility that your board's going to shoot off into the water, which happened to me once when I was skating in Chicago many years ago. And there's these curved walls right by Lake Michigan, somewhere in Chicago, that are just great for skating. It's like a quarter pipe right there by the water, and of course you have to be really careful not to let your board just like fly out right into the lake. And of course that's exactly what happened to me on a brand new deck. Just bought that deck that day, and whoosh, right into the gross polluted lake, falls down between some rocks. I even got, there's like a bunch of rocks there. It's like a ledge, and then there's big boulders, and I could see my skateboard down there between a couple boulders. So my friends like lowered me down. I'm there crawling over these like algae covered rocks and to my skateboard, and then like some motorboat, I'm close to getting it, almost gonna get it, and some motorboat comes by, and the wake from the motorboat comes and like jostles my skateboard, and it falls like deeper down there where I can't even reach it. And you know, in this like polluted ass water, there's like a diaper floating in there. But you know what I'm saying about the past, you know, difficult experiences. Now it's full of meaning. Now it makes a story that I can tell you that is almost funny in how stupid it is. And at this point, that's much more valuable to me than the skateboard. I usually don't tell stories like that, but why not? It illustrates, it relates, it ties into what's going on here. It's an allegory. No, it's not an allegory. It's not an allegory. It's more like a what is it? I'm distracted now by this copyrighted music that's gonna get me distracted. This guy, how come this guy gets to play it in public, in a public space, but if I walk past and it gets into the recording thing, I'm gonna get copy striked. I gotta get out of here. And everybody's staring at me because I'm running with a big stick. I'm just trying to get away from the copyrighted music. Get me away. Save my content. Let me not violate the rules of copyright. How come that guy gets to use it? They're like, they're like out there dancing to it. We're starting to get a little bit more whimsical. I'm tired of walking. I want to go inside and get warm. But that's not useful to think about right now. This is, everybody's photographing everything here. Hopefully I'm still too obscure. Hopefully this channel is still obscure enough that some jerk isn't gonna copy strike me. Hopefully some algorithm isn't gonna detect the song in there. Until some future more enlightened time when the algorithm will be able to sense my moral character just through the video and will thus spare me. We're gonna get there someday. It can already translate my speech. It can already do the speech to text thing. So it knows what I'm saying. That YouTube can know what I'm saying. We just got to develop the technology to the point where it can interpret the subtle movements of my face, my facial expression, and the inflection in my voice, as well as the content of what I'm saying. And the AI will be able to put all that data together to realize that I'm a pure, I have good intentions for society, and that I'm not maliciously benefiting off of other people's content. And it'll just realize this algorithmically, and then my video won't get copy strikes. I think that might happen someday. Something like that. Man, thousands of people today must have stared at me carrying this big stick with a camera taped to it, rubber banded to it. Man, I wonder if what number is larger, the number of people IRL who have looked at me today, or the number of people that will watch part of this video. I'm gonna guess the latter. But, you know, I'm becoming a small part of, a very small part of people's conscious today, whether just, you know, as a very fleeting presence in their view while they're jogging, and just a very, very brief inquisitiveness. What is that weird piece of wood with devices attached to it that guy's carrying around and talking to? And then they'll probably forget about it almost immediately, and it won't be part of the memory that they're conscious of, you know. If it forms any kind of memory at all, it'll be buried way deep in there with all the other stuff that doesn't really matter at all. But your experience is a lot different in that, A, you've come to witness this with some volition of your own, and B, you've followed it for at least some amount of time, just as evidenced by the fact that you are comprehending the speech that I'm saying. And it's like you're along with me on this walk, and actually privy to my experience in a somewhat intimate way, albeit mediated by the video technology. It's still a much more intimate interaction than the IRL passerby. And it's a good thing because when this is on YouTube, it's just there and it's available, and it's not really intruding into anybody's experience unwanted. You know, the most it's going to do is perhaps show up in your sidebar as a thumbnail. But if you're watching or hearing this, it's almost entirely likely that it's by your own choice, except in the unlikely scenario that somebody is like forcing you to listen to this and watch it. But that doesn't seem like an interesting thing to remark upon. It's unremarkable. I mean, I was able to remark upon it, but I don't know if that's the real definition of remarkable. You know, there's plenty of this is what I'm talking about. Is this feels like kind of throwaway line of thought, you know? Why? Let me try a little harder here, you know? Let me try a little harder to think and talk about things that are actually maybe a little bit relevant or important or could be of some valuable insight. Let me just put my thinking cap on here and see if I can't cook something up good for you. And just make your time a little more worthwhile, make you want to come back. You know what I'm saying? I'm almost back to the point where I began, but I still got a little while to go. A little while, I think. Yeah, at least a little while. Let me look. What if this turns out to be... Oh, not too much longer. I'm kind of estimating because I didn't note the time exactly when I started, and I stopped the video at that time when I went into the bathroom. That was kind of pivotal, you know. I stopped the video to go in and take a pee, and it's like I actually, because I wasn't going to film in a public bathroom, but it actually gave me a short psychological break. And after I came out of the bathroom, I realized that you wouldn't know if I took a few extra minutes to contemplate whether I should keep going or not. And I did. I took like 3 or 4 minutes, and I was like, man, I'm stopped now. What if I just stop? What if I just don't turn the camera back on today? And then I decided to keep going. And then I got over the hill, and I was going downhill, and now I'm back on the. Then I was back, trying to stay on the level, and here I am. I feel like it's towards the end now. It's towards the end, and I'm still kind of. I'm back to kind of expending a little bit of effort. It feels like, but if I'm able to just keep backing up my perspective, keep zooming out, it's like my perspective is a little bit above the effortful part, and I'm watching the effort being expended. And now when I'm talking, it's as if I'm more, I started to remark about my own expenditure of mental effort in order to talk about things that seemed relevant or insightful. And when I started remarking upon that, then I started to identify with the level of perception that was above that effort expenditure, and looking upon it, and then the effort was gone. The experience of expending the effort was gone, because I was now identified with a higher perspective, or at least an outside perspective, a perspective that is outside the whatever mentality it was that was identified with the effort being expended. You know what I'm saying? This guy's filming seagulls. I can film them too. And I need some stuff to like feed these birds. That would be fun. I need to like put a French fry on the lens of the camera. I wonder if I can figure that out. Maybe if I just stand over there by the seagulls, they'll think that I'm trying to feed them. I'm just trying to trick them into flying right at the camera. Hey, buddy. I think my artisanal selfie stick is gonna scare them off. You know, it looks like a weapon. But you know, that's an idea for the future. Bring some bread, put it on the camera, get some seagulls flocking around it. So I'm back here at the, you know, close to the end of the video, and I don't necessarily feel in any kind of elevated state at all, really. Oh, here I am breaking the law again. I'm just gonna try and keep talking over this music as much as possible, so that it's as obscured as possible, so that I'm less likely to be in violation of copyright laws. We'll see how that goes. But boy, they blast that shit. They want everybody to hear it. Yeah, I'm mostly just feeling like kind of tired and ready to stop this nonsense. But shouldn't I be like leaving you off with some kind of emotional reward for having stuck it out? I gotta pee again. Oh, well, look at that. Restrooms this way. That's fortuitous. Oh, I'm gonna have to stop. I'm gonna have to stop the video again if I go in the restroom. Oh yeah, that's the restroom. Man, I have to pee twice in one episode. That's crazy. How much time's left? Let's just look up for a while. It's so noisy here. No relief. This is like one of those movies that in the end they don't leave you with a totally positive ending. It's like one of those movies that you go through some struggle. The character, you know, the protagonist or whatever, goes through a bunch of struggle, and then they learn some stuff and they have some success. But then at the end, they leave you off with a continuing struggle. You know, like a feeling of irresolution. Like you're still gonna keep having to go through these struggles into the future after the end of the movie. That's what's I mean, that's honest. It's truthful. That's like, I feel like those movies are doing a more morally righteous thing than ones that are end with happily ever after, because it's true, the struggles, you're never like totally done with it. You're still gonna have to keep going through life, and you never are just gonna end up in some perfectly static contentment. So I think that's what this episode is like. I'm trying to think of a good example, but maybe it's more like a television drama. You know, television drama in every half hour or 1 hour, probably 1 hour, right? 1 hour series of like House or I don't know what. I don't watch TV anymore. I don't know what television. Game of Thrones. I've never seen a single minute of a single episode. But I'm assuming that in every hour-long episode, the good guys surmount a big problem that seems insurmountable, and then at the end they leave you with a little cliffhanger of the problem, the new problem that remains to be solved in the next episode. So that's what we'll do here. You know, we had some major accomplishments in this episode of Walking and Talking. We surmounted the seemingly insurmountable challenges of existing as a person, and we took a little bit of time to celebrate that success and appreciate it and learn lessons from it that can be applied to the future. And And then we reminded ourselves not to get overly confident and to continue to respond to the present in an appropriate manner, and then we continue to deal with circumstances like this, whatever this fucking noise is. We just continue to deal with it forever. It never stops. I'm stopping this now. See you next time.